Hello, it's Caitlin Jenkins, the family law vlogger here, and this is the next in the stages of divorce series. And this one is dealing with a common question that comes up, which is how to value cars and personal items for the purposes of divorce discussions. And in particular, Section 2.8 of the Form E, I've got a Form E here, so I'm looking at it. Section 2.8 of the Form E asks for details of personal belongings individually worth more than £500, and it gives various examples. Now, how best to go about filling this in? Well, cars tend to be the easier bit. If it's a family car or say a range of cars that somebody has for investment purposes, you might be able to get a valuation from a garage, for example, or even from one of the online websites that will give you an idea of what the car is worth based on the mileage and the age of the car, etc. So cars, you tend to be able to do it that way. Furniture and contents of the house starts to get a bit more tricky because quite a lot of the furniture and contents of houses that's bought for day-to-day use, it does not necessarily fall within the category required by Section 2.8 of the Form E, because that's talking about items that you could sell, so resale value, not what it would cost for buying them new. So items that you could sell for more than £500. So even if you've bought a sofa or another expensive item for the house for more than £500, the question is whether you could resell it for that. And actually, for quite a lot of household day-to-day items, a resale value is obviously a lot less than the purchase value. The same point applies for insurance value, because one of the ways of thinking about the values of certain items in the house is to dig out the insurance cover. Now, of course, if you have certain items, valuable items named on the insurance cover of associated with your property, the contents associated with your property or properties, then that might be quite a good starting point if you've had to value those items individually or mention them on the policy. But again, an insurance valuation is not necessarily the same as either a resale value or the purchase price. So again, the actual value for the purposes of Form E may be less than the insurance value, because that's usually based on how much it would cost to replace it. And the same point or a similar point applies to collections of more valuable items. So we're talking about collections of pictures or paintings, collections of jewellery, or watches, and things like, for example, guns can be very valuable to buy, very valuable to insure, but not necessarily easy to value as to a resale value. Now, in some circumstances, it may be agreed that it's not appropriate to actually put a specific value on one or two items of jewellery that were bought for usage. But if there's an investment value, so items of jewellery or watches or chattels collections such as rare paintings, those sorts of things have been bought for investment purposes or even inherited, sometimes it's appropriate to try and put a resale value on them. And if absolutely necessary, it can be appropriate for a court to direct that there's an expert who's actually given directions to value those items for sale purposes if they're so significant in the context of the assets. A single joint expert, as we've touched on in relation to houses, tends to be either agreed or ordered by a court because there's a cost associated, so it needs to be reasonable and proportionate to have a single joint expert, tends to be on joint instruction and therefore halving the cost equally. But that's probably rarer in the day-to-day types of cases that such a valuation would be needed. Much more common in the high value cases where you've got values of items that are significant, both in terms of the actual amount, but in terms of the overall value of the case. And so things like jewellery or watches, collections of pictures, etc., need to be valued. So as always with the family law vlog, this is only really general information. And if you need advice on your particular circumstances, particularly if you have valuable items in the home or valuable collections of items, then please do take advice from me or one of my colleagues in the specialist family and children team at Mills Reeve, and we'll be able to help you on your specific circumstances. Thank you.